Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to the Week 10 edition of the Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. I'm Mike Daggs. He's Gerald Smith. Gerald, we got Week 9 in the books now. Another exciting week of SFL action.
Yeah, I had to. Last week for me was a week off. I had to rock the Kelly Kapowski, and now it's back to business as usual.
I know, you made me get dressed back up. You actually allowed a dress down day last week. That's why you had jeans on, and I think I just had it was an Aztecs t-shirt if I remember right. But
yeah, I was rocking Kelly Kapowski from the Saved by the Bell days.
Sure did, yeah.
I wonder how many of the viewers actually know who Kelly Kapowski is.
But, well, we're old, so probably not many. Oh well. But anyway, back to looking professional, at least trying to, and we'll get into Week 10's SFL action. Man, we got an exciting week of games coming up into the latter half of the season now. Playoff implications starting to come into focus. Nobody can secure or really determine their playoff future quite yet, but this weekend's going to shake up a lot of things.
And it's going to end up being, we're going to find out who's contenders and who are pretenders at this stage in the season.
Absolutely. So why don't we break down the Week 10 schedule? So tonight, it's just an epic night. We're going to break this down a few different times, a few different ways throughout the evening, but Friday night, starting at 8 p.m., just about 28 minutes from now, we've got Alamo City at Louisiana. We even put the Rebs flag back on the wall for tonight because that's the kickoff game. We've got 2 games tonight, both South Division matchups. So 4 out of the 5 South Division teams facing off in just about a half hour's time. That's how you start Week 10.
I would agree. It's such a bruiser type division.
It really is. Alamo City at Louisiana, that's going to kick off right after our show. Cameron Duty and Alex West on the call. I figured, for an epic night of games, we got to have some epic broadcast crews.
I saw it. I'm like, I love the fact that Cameron Duty is calling our game.
Yep. Cameron Duty, Alex West on the call. And then Mexico City at Houston, our second South Division matchup of the night. Chris Curtis and Mike O'Neill.
Dude, I love Chris Curtis has always been great. And it's crazy because first time I actually heard Chris Curtis, my kid was playing Rocket League, and that's why I heard Chris Curtis way back when. I was like, this guy sounds familiar. Yeah. Mike O'Neill was definitely one of the better up-and-coming analysts in the league. He does a great job.
The two of them like calling games together. That always makes it better, too, when the broadcast team has some rapport.
Right.
That was always what I forgot my name. So Matt and I always had together was that rapport, and then you and I have built that up over these past few years as well, and it just makes it so much more fun. But yeah, what a great night. I can't emphasize that one enough. Really looking forward to these 2 games tonight. I say that I'm actually horribly terrified. I feel like I should have a nice bucket that I can throw up into as soon as the Aztecs game kicks off. Go Aztecs. We'll see what happens. That's our Friday night slate of games. Saturday, it just continues to be just as good. We've got at 6:30 p.m. Minnesota at Baltimore, Colin and Rick. So a couple of premier teams. I mean, I know Baltimore's not doing quite as well this season as they have, but 5-time champions against a team that's currently 7-1. And you got Colin and Rick on the call. I mean, huge. It's going to be a great game. 6:45 p.m. Motor City at DC, Chad Rowland, Anthony Ellison. More great broadcasters. At 9 p.m. Tulsa at Arizona, Tyler and Mark. Brett Solberg taking a sabbatical. I don't know. He's walking through the
he's tracking moose.
Tracking moose.
He's tracking moose.
Tracking moose. He's going to try to wrangle one for me. Kelly's always wanted to see a moose up in person, not in the zoo, so he's going to try to catch one for
Minnesota's got a moose on their team. You just show that one.
It's true. That's true. Anyhow, so Mark Lopez playing pitch hitter for Brett Solberg. So at 9:15, Queen City at Los Angeles, Jacob Clear. Finally back from wrangling koalas or whatever he was up to.
Kangaroos.
Kangaroos?
And koalas, maybe.
What if you could ride a kangaroo? Do you think that's illegal?
I don't know. I kind of want to ride one.
Not that, yeah. Okay. Until it turns
Jacob has got to see some picture with a kangaroo with a saddle on it.
That's what we need. We need to see if you can have a kangaroo with a saddle. Anyway, Jacob Clear back in the fold. And we've got Cameron Duty on his second game of the week. He's going to be the analyst on that game.
Amazing.
Sure to be a great call. That's our Saturday slate of games. And they just keep on going on Sunday. Charleston at Fort Worth. We're going to break that game down in a little bit. Tyler on his second game, along with John Warren, another great analyst that's then been coming up through the ranks this season. At 6:45, we got Florida at Atlanta, undefeated against a team that has just looked red hot as of late. You and I are going to call that game. We're not calling one tonight because we're both going to be sitting here watching our teams battle it out and see how they do. So we're going to not call one tonight. We're gonna take a day off tomorrow because we'll both probably just be crying in our soup or something.
Probably
what's going on, but we'll see what
Not
happens.
scoring any points on the game, at least for my team.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Go ahead. Anyway, so we'll call that game at 6:45 p.m. on Sunday. At 9 p.m. on Sunday, we got Vancouver at Indianapolis. Jacob Clear back in the booth again, the second time of the weekend, along with Mickey Melillo. Double M7 is the analyst for Vancouver at Indianapolis. At 9:15, Jacksonville, Carolina. Damon Simeon, Rochelle Colston on the call. And then the Monday Night Spectacular at 8 p.m. on Monday night. San Diego at Seattle. Cameron Irvine, Charles Doherty on the call. That's going to be an exciting one, too.
I really need our commissioner, Cameron Irvine, to wear a Superman T-shirt one of these days.
Well, yeah.
And this actually showed on camera.
Right, but have like the button-up shirt on top of it.
Yeah.
Glasses. Throw the
Glasses.
Rip that shirt open right on camera.
Yep. And with the curl.
Welcome to the show.
He's got to have the curl drop down on the forehead, too.
Well, it's
Make it happen,
natural
Cameron.
there. Anyhow, why don't we break down some games, shall we? So let's start off with Vancouver, Indianapolis. Both teams, they're at 4-4 right now. They're both number 2 in their respective divisions. They're both coming off of a win in Week 9. So very similar looking teams on the surface. Vancouver, they're in a 3-way battle for the Pacific Division right now. We got San Diego, Vancouver, and Seattle, all of which currently have 4 wins. So I'll kind of, sure, they're in number 2, but they could be 1, they could be 3.
Right.
It could move around easily. Indianapolis, they kind of have a taller task ahead of them. Minnesota, as we talked about, they're out in front in that division, 7-1. They face off on Sunday at 9 p.m. So let's break down the game, and we'll start with Vancouver. Talk about what they're going to do on offense.
So Vancouver has lost 4 of their last 6 games. It hasn't been anything that they've been accustomed to being like over the course of their entire existence, right? Their offense has been inconsistent. In their losses, they haven't run very well, right? They have been forced to be one-dimensional toward the pass, and it hasn't done them any favor, right? So they have to find that consistency on offense. And, they have this, from Andy Hamilton, the way he's got his team and the way he's always done it, he has like no panic for some reason, right? So, I don't see that there's any panic in the Vancouver leadership, even though they are 4-4 right now and looking as if they're second in the division. Why? Because you had the number 6 rushing attack on your team with Redford, Nakai, the middle schooler, Bravado, and Sawyer Stern all getting carries throughout throughout all their games when they were successful. So, they were 4-4 the last 3 seasons at this point and made the playoffs each of those seasons.
They're very consistent about that.
So and if it's are they comfortable right now? So hey, that's why I think there's no panic, because they've always been sitting right here the last 3 seasons with this type of record, and they've always either won the division and actually made the playoffs. So I don't think they're panicking at all.
And not only do they have that great rushing attack, but they've also been pretty good at the defensive line position. Bobo Caudell in particular, number 2 in the SFL in sacks. Talk about that defense.
Yeah, and then he's 7, right? Number 2 and 7 sacks on the season, and they play really good at the line of scrimmage, right? And then you have Josh Farnsley and DJ Woods. They're having all-star caliber seasons right now from the linebacker position. Then you have the free safety, Mark Lopez, on the back end, leading the SFL in interceptions with 5, along with Emmanuel Blackman, one of the corners there, with, having some himself.
Yeah, so, I can't wait to play them later on this season.
Right. So, look, but they too have been inconsistent, especially on 3rd down. They allow 64% of 3rd down conversion to their opponents, and it's something they're going to have to clean up if they actually want to continue that type of trend that they've had over the last few seasons of being 4-4 at this point and actually getting above it and reaching the playoffs and maybe even winning the division.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about Indianapolis and their offense. We used to see them kind of air it out, all the time, quite often. What's happening?
It was like Ryan Roosevelt and Jeff Banfield all over they used to be, right?
Slinging the rock.
And I remember at one time I talked to Terrell, I'm like, dude, you just passing. He's like, yeah, man, I'm like the passing coordinator, right? Which is what they got in more, in all these other leagues. They actually got a passing coordinator.
But they've struggled most of the season.
Yeah,
so,
and that's the thing. And I don't kind of understand. They struggle most of the season. They're ranked near the bottom in all offensive categories, which is crazy. But despite the struggles, the reason why they are able to stay at 4-4 and actually able to compete in some of these games is because they have the 2nd fewest turnovers in the league right now, which has kept them competitive in all their games. They do need a better run game. They're ranked 23rd. in their rushing attack across the league, but Ryan Roosevelt is an extreme game changer in the passing game. And if they can get that going like they have in the past, they could be really, really dangerous on offense.
Turnovers could be an issue in this game, though. They're going up against a defense, as you talked about, that really likes to take that ball away. But their defense really keeps them in games, too. They're top 10 in, I think, just about every single category. And, ultimately, they've allowed the second fewest points in the league. They're very stingy on defense.
And it's crazy because they end up pressuring the quarterback like no other team that I've actually seen before, right? 20 sacks on the season, 9 different defenders out of 11-person defense, right? You got 11 that lineup.
Yeah.
9 of those have gotten sacks this season. Adam Wiseman, right? I feel like he's got an office in opponent's backfield because he still leads the league in TFLs, and half of his tackles on the season or tackles for losses.
Yeah.
That's something impressive. And it's that type of play that also allows the cornerback, Ernest McCray Sr. I know he loves his fried shrimp po' boys.
He does love
so that's allowing him to eat all the shrimp po' boys that he wants to the tune of 4 interceptions on the season. The defense can be scary good.
Yes, yeah, they absolutely can. This is bound to be a great game no matter how you look at the breakdown. 2 very similar teams. They've got their ups, they've got their downs. One of them's going to go to 5-4. The other one's going to end up with a losing record. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of Ernest McCray, we got the convention that was announced going to Houston. I had the privilege of meeting Ernest McCray in Cincinnati. If you've never been to a convention, you got to go. Even if it's just to sit around and just soak it all in. The people that you'll meet, I mean, this league, people come from all walks of life, all areas of the country, all with their own backgrounds, all with their own stories. The melting pot that we've got in this league, you can't experience this in most situations. It's just when I saw his name on the screen, I'm like, I remember meeting that dude.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy too. I even said it then too. If ever a spot opens up on my team, I'm stealing that guy.
I told him the same thing.
Chad, Adam, I'm stealing him if I ever got a spot at corner. Ernest McCray, love you. I got all the shrimp po' boys.
The Aztecs are a better team.
Not really.
Well, if you look at the records, not so much. We'll talk about points in a little bit. For right now, let's talk about Charleston at Fort Worth. Sunday evening game as well. Fort Worth, they currently lead the South, as we know.
Right.
But barely. It's a very tight division, and we'll talk about it even in more detail later. But the top team is 5-3, Fort Worth. The bottom team, for now, the Aztecs, are 3-5. So there's not really much that separates the top from the bottom in the South, as it seems to always be. There's 4 games left to play. The whole division could technically flip.
It sure could.
We could have the Aztecs at number 1. That's what I'm trying to get at. So we're hoping that technically it could flip. Charleston, speaking of teams that have kind of flipped the script, they started out 0-4.
Yes.
Since that time, they've gone 4-0. So now they're currently at 4-4. But man, what riding high on a 4-game win streak, including a 30-20 victory over Houston last week. Like I said, they face off Sunday at 6:30. Let's break this down. Charleston, 4 wins in a row.
Yeah, and 3 of those wins have been by 2 scores.
Yeah.
Or more, right?
Yeah,
so
they're
look,
winning.
Right, and they have actually played the perfect ball control offense that I've seen over the last 4 weeks. They're top 5 in time of possession in the entire league.
Yeah.
They don't do anything flashy, right? They just get the job done. They grind out drives.
Win's a win.
And they end those drives with points.
Yep.
Which is really, really important. Now, if you're going to put together a long drive, you better get down there and get points, and they're actually doing it. Lots of players are involved in the offense, and they use mismatches to huge success on offense. So they're putting wide receivers at running back. They're making their fullback their primary back sometimes in some games. So they're utilizing the mismatches on the offensive side of the ball like no other team, I don't think, to this point this season has, and I think it has worked to their advantage.
And you talked about, it's not a flashy team. That includes the defense as well. If you look at their player stats, there's not any one person or anything that's really going to impress you about their stats, but their defense is pretty good.
Yeah, and at number 4, right, in total defense. Over the first 4 games in their losses, they have allowed 23 points a game. But the last 4, they've actually cut that by more in half.
Yeah.
And only allowing 11 points per game over the last 4 during their 4-game win streak. And that's where they have turned their season around, right? With the ball control offense and their defense actually turning it around. They are, in my opinion, the most dangerous team right now in the SFL outside of, say, like a Canton, who's just been extremely dominant. They are still a really dangerous team. So anybody who has them on their schedule, look out. You got to definitely prepare for them defensively because they're actually doing it. And it's the whole team, the offense and the defense. They just got to go meshing well together right now.
If there's a team that can prepare for them, though, it's going to be a team like Fort Worth. Fort Worth is just, they've been a good team. They are a good team, even though they're 5-3. I think still that they're top of our division. They're still a great team. So talk about that.
Yeah, and they hit a I call it a speed bump last week in playing San Diego, but they are still a really, really good team.
Cost me a pick, in fact.
The number 5 passing offense in the league. And look, and it's in part, and it's led by Marcus Dunhill with Stephen Hacker and EJ Minton, who are, phenomenal receivers this season, and both are top 7 in receptions in the SFL.
Yeah.
They convert 55% on third down, which is number 6 in the league. The offense gets extra delicious when they introduce the bacon. And I mean Jay-Z bacon, because when he produces, the offense is borderline unstoppable. So I think it's important for them, not only what they've done. I know Marcus Dunhill showed a flash of his legs against you guys a few weeks ago.
Thanks for rubbing that salt in the wound.
So
always can count on Gerald.
It still runs, in my opinion, it runs through Jay-Z Bacon, and if he can start to sizzle, I think that offense is going to separate itself, and they can put up a ton of points at times.
And if you shut down Bacon, we'll just have Dunhill run all the way around the outside. Bacon stats against the Aztecs, pretty basic.
Nobody around for 30
Dunhill thing, I'll just run way down here. Forgot to account for that one. Oops. Hey, you talked about the offense, and they've been really good. The defense has been just as good. They're keeping them in games too.
Yeah, and it's I think it's part of like the way their defense is really good. In my opinion, it starts with their safeties and Ben Stone and Delaney Nash. They play the line of scrimmage like some linebackers cannot even do across the league. They play extremely well at the line of scrimmage and stop and run. And this has contributed to them stopping the run with the 4th best run defense in the league. They're also only allowing 38% conversions on third down to their opponents, right?
Huge.
And it's actually, stop.
And yes, I'm aware.
Yeah, and it's actually stopping that run offense of the opponent, so it's forcing them into third and long situations, right? So, and that's how you're able to stop your opponents like that. And that's a huge reason why they're 5-3.
And I know a lot of people are probably thinking, man, he still sounds really salty over the loss to the Fort Worth Toros. And you're right, I am. So anyway, let's move on to the next game. So, hey, Sunday night, we're calling Florida at Atlanta. We'll go ahead and break that one down right now. I think that this game has game of the week potential. You've got undefeated Florida. They're heading into hot Atlanta. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. 2 of their 3 losses this season that they've had were less than a single touchdown. So, they're not losing big. They're number 2 in the East behind Florida, but if they keep winning and Florida maybe stumbles a little bit, Atlanta can make a run for the East title. But Florida, they're not going to roll over so easily. I mean, they are undefeated.
True.
But they're not invincible. They've shown some signs of potential weakness. 4 of their wins were by 1 score. 3 of them were by 3 points or less. So They won. They did win. Like I said, I'd rather have an ugly win than a pretty loss, but they won.
Right. And in those wins that were really short, it was all recent weeks. So everybody's starting to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So that game kicks off on Sunday. We'll start by kind of breaking down Florida. They haven't skipped a beat since last season. They're winning 7-0.
And look, and I always mention, hey, people starting to figure out what they're doing, but he still had the top 5 offense in every category and has the number 1 offense in the league. Right. So it's really hard to argue with what they're doing. They're winning games. Arguably, I think, in my opinion, from what I've seen, has the best quarterback in the league in Ron Cochran.
Riverboat Ron.
Right, who has 3 wide receivers with over 400 receiving yards on the season at this point, which is really good. The ball distribution is really, really good for them. The number 5 rushing offense in the league, and they're scoring over 30 points a game. It's a really complete offense. There's, in my opinion, there really isn't much negative you can even say about their offense.
There's really not much you can say negative about the defense, too. I mean, the way that you kind of look at it, I mean, you could say that they're maybe even better than last season's Florida's defense.
And it's crazy because they have almost identical yards given up by allowing 5 points less this season than they did last season per average. So, but one stat is which is tons better, is in takeaways. They are number 2 in takeaways in the SFL. right? With what they do. And it looks like vintage Florida to me, back when they were the Alaska Storm. Now they're the Florida Storm. And it's like, they just look like they're just vintage. It seems like they hadn't skipped a beat from last season. So, and Max Paul has his team in full playoff form. And I'm a dare myself to even say it. Dare we even say championship form right now.
Yeah, well, they won the championship and they haven't lost since. So, hard to argue with that hot take. But speaking of hot takes, Atlanta, they're 5-3, so they're not up there in the top 3 of the league's rankings, but they're probably the best 5-3 team that we've got going on.
And that's also my opinion as well. It's like, I really do think they are, right? They convert 61% of their third downs, and it's because of the run game by BDG. He's number 2 in the league in rushing.
Yeah.
Like, and BDG is a Hall of Fame running back, but nobody's talking about him.
Right.
It's like Atlanta just gets forgotten, this whole thing with the undefeated Canton, and then Florida in their division, leading their division, being undefeated. It just kind of gets lost in there. But it's and them being able to make their third downs extremely shorter, it increases that number of them converting, of being able to convert on third down with the way they're able to run the ball on first and second down, right? So look, and Dynasty has been efficient at the quarterback position as well, and he's able, when he's called upon, he's able to make plays, and he seems to be finding wide receiver K. Marion, who has 5 touchdowns on the season right now at this point. So they have all these pieces. To me, they're a team that could very well be undefeated, or at 7-1 at this point, or
like
something like that.
A couple of their losses were by less than a touchdown.
And they are extremely good. I think they're very underrated right now, and nobody's talking about it, and maybe that's the way they like it.
Fly under the radar and just continue to have success. So they beat my Aztecs last week, but so have a lot of teams. So that doesn't really say a whole lot, but their defense is pretty good too. 5th best total defense in the league. They've got the number 3 rushing defense. It's going to be put to the test against the likes of the Bullet Boletsky.
Yeah, look, and it's Hall of Famer Quanashine will have to, I know we joke all the time. He's getting out of his rocker, getting back in there.
But he's Grandpa Shine.
Yeah, right. But he's got to be able to lead this defense.
He's gonna beat us both up.
Yeah, very likely. He's very likely going to be out in Houston.
I bet we're faster.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's true. We are in our 40s. Anyway, carry on.
So look, and they're going to have their hands full with stopping the Florida rushing offense, right? But they're going to have to put pressure on the quarterback as well, because if they can stop the run, they're going to have to stop the efficiency of Ron Cochran being able to pass the ball to be able to knock off the undefeated champs.
Absolutely, it's going to be an exciting game. I can't wait to call that one with you on Sunday. What I really can wait for, and what I really don't want to have happen, is tonight's games, because I'm just absolutely terrified. Listen, it's going to be a great night, but a terrifying night all at the same time. We're not going to do a full breakdown of our own games, because that would just be conceited, and it'd be like Tyler Falk picking himself for the broadcast call of the week. Not that that's ever happened, but
Sure,
broadcast team inside joke. Anyway, Mexico City at Houston. Let me talk about Mexico City for a little bit. So we're 3-5 on the season. The season obviously hasn't gone the way that we wanted to. We're last in the South. We are number 2 in scoring. If you look at it, you got Canton, number 1 scoring team. Number 2 in the league, the Mexico City Aztecs. We're putting up points. We got to convert that into wins, and we're hoping that we can do that tonight against Houston. Ramos and I, we spent quite a bit of time this week trying to put together a good, solid game plan. Got a lot of good pieces on this team. People look at Jordan Sipe. Oh, he's a pick machine. I've seen it in the chat sometimes. That guy's just throwing picks all the time. He's also leading the league in touchdowns. So, you can attribute it to quarterbacks in other leagues that, some people are like, oh, that guy's no good. He is leading the entire league in touchdowns, though. So, you give and you take. But, so we'll see what happens. I still have a lot of faith in the team. A lot of great players, a lot of great pieces, and any team that's got Ramos Lynn as the head coach, they're always there. So we'll see what happens against Houston tonight. But you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I got like us, right? We definitely had in the season that we anticipated, right? Coming off, especially the run game we had last season, running back and Dwayne Sanders getting over 1,500 yards, almost having 2,000 yards collectively across all our guys who ran the ball. And we don't share the same type of statistical prowess on the offense like you did. We are,
the opposite.
We've scored we've scored the least amount of points right now across the league, and it's something that as a staff, right, we've been working on to actually correct. So, our defense has been pretty decent all season long with as far as generating turnovers and being able to stop opponents. But when our offense is not able to get over the hump and actually score any points, it puts a lot of pressure on our defense, which ends up having these lopsided losses like we had in more recent weeks to Seattle, who put it to us right really late in the games. We hung with them. Even Canton, we hung with them for probably about 2.5, 3 quarters, and then it just snowballed on us, right? I don't think it was any fault of the defense. It just got out of hand on the offensive side, just not being able to put up points. So, I mean, we feel like, coming in this week, we had, felt like, hey, we had a lot of good prep work against Alamo City and have a good idea as to what they're going to do. Now it's up to, the players and everything else to go out there and execute the game plan we put together, because we feel like we had about a couple of good weeks of prep because we had a bye week last week. And hopefully we can come in here and actually increase us sitting at number 4 and increase to 4-4 and maybe get us to that 3rd position.
It would,
in the division.
Yeah, the
with also us having to play everybody. Right now, we have to play everybody ahead of us. Fort Worth is above us. We still have to play them. Houston, we still have to play them. They're above us.
Right.
Alamo City sits above us right now, and we're playing them tonight. So hopefully we can start chipping away at that if we're able to win these games.
Well, we've already played each other, so we can put that in the rearview mirror. We won't even talk about who won that game, because it really doesn't even matter at this point.
What a reason why we're sitting at 4th
So,
and you're sitting at 5th. But that's okay.
Listen, man. Wait till this camera turns off. No, but listen, at this point, we work together and we'll take away the rest of this division.
Sure.
So, listen.
You beat Houston, I beat Alamo City.
That's what's up. So you're at 3-4. I'm at 3-5. But we talked about it earlier. Fort Worth, they're leading our division at 5-3. Houston's also at 5-3. Alamo City at 4-4. The Revs beat the Artillery. Automatically, the Revs move up into that 3rd spot. If the Aztecs beat Houston, I don't think we move at all, but
it tightens everything up.
But it tightens everything up.
Tightens everything up.
Listen, there's an opportunity, the way that things could potentially play out, that the Revs could end at 8-4, the Aztecs could end at 7-5. Like I said, this entire division could still be flipped completely on its head. So who knows what's going to happen? But it's going to be a South Division just bloodbath.
It is. It's going to be a beat. I thought the East Division was one of the better divisions in the league. But now that I see, even before we got in, we got into the South, they were just a division that just beat each other up, and such top tier coaching and talent all throughout the division. Now we're in it, we're seeing it firsthand.
A couple minutes left in the show. Let's talk about our picks. Something else that you're doing quite good at now.
If only this can translate to wins in the for the Revs.
Just wins between our totally pointless contest between you and I. But man. So 3 weeks in a row, you've gotten all 3 picks correct. It's unbelievable.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling it.
We're all tied up 15-11 each. So last week you picked DC, San Diego, and Baltimore. All 3 of those teams won. I picked 2 out of those 3 teams. I bet on Fort Worth. I don't know. They beat me up on the field, and now they beat me up in the pit game. You'd think I'd learn, but I don't. So anyway, I won a couple of games. You won all 3, and now we're all tied up. So let's just make a couple of picks tonight. Let's just do 2. I know we broke down a bunch of games. So let's just do 2. We'll start with Vancouver at Indianapolis. Who do you got?
I got Indianapolis because I do think that their defense is top tier, more so than Vancouver. Vancouver, I think, is still trying to figure it out, even though I know they have no panic what they're doing. I just think Indianapolis has a good idea what they are defensively, even though they're doing just enough on offense to get them through. I think their defense is going to overpower Vancouver tonight.
All right. Well, I don't think so. I think it's going to be Vancouver. Points per game, they're in the 20s. Indianapolis, they're in the teens. So I think that, like you talked about, Vancouver's at 4-4, but they've been 4-4. And then they go to the playoffs. Usually they end up winning a playoff game. Yeah. So they're a team that they'll, over time, figure it out and start getting those wins. I think it starts with this game on the road in Indianapolis. We'll see. Charleston at Fort Worth. Who do you got?
I got Charleston simply because they are by far, like I said,
good.
Really good. They are the best team in the league over the last 4 games, in my opinion, outside of Canton. And I think they are going to go into Fort Worth, and I think they're going to give Fort Worth quite a challenge. I don't think it's going to be kind of blowout, but I think the ball control offense that Charleston is able to put together, I think it just kind of smothers them out. I think it's going to be a tight, close game, but I think Charleston pulls it out.
Oh, not me. I'm a glutton for punishment, and I'm going to go back to the team that keeps letting me down, Fort Worth. Maybe 3rd time's the charm. I don't know. If they don't win this game, listen, I don't even want them to win. And I can say that it's our show. I don't want them to win. I want them to lose. I want every team, except for yours, because we got to work together now, in the South to lose. It's the only way that we're going to win games and move up the rankings. So I hope I lose that pick. But if I do lose that pick, I'm never picking them again. Anyway, that's all the time that we got for our Week 10 Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. We've got Alamo City and Louisiana kicking off just moments away. Mexico City, Houston, moments after that. Great night of football, great weekend of football. We can't wait to get these ones started. Thanks very much, everybody. Stay with us. We'll get the game started right after this.
Go Rebs.
OSX.